Like the other day, we had a C-arm go down. Like I told you, we had 3 C-arms. We needed 3 C-arms. So we rearranged the schedule to fit them as best as we could. And of course, we had a cancellation and things moved up and changed. So we talked to the docs, and they were able, one of them was able to use a mini C-arm, or another one was able to say, I only need it for 1 shot at this particular time in the case. So we worked together as a team to really manage like what limits us. And it works out if you're able to communicate well with those teams.
Clock in, scrub up, and join us behind the red line. You're listening to First Case, a perioperative podcast bringing you exciting interviews, engaging discussions, and innovative solutions that are changing the way patients receive surgical care. Each episode, we talk to frontline staff, perioperative leadership, and nursing entrepreneurs from across the country as they share their stories, experience, and expertise on the industry we love. From the back table to the boardroom, from wheels in to wheels out, we tackle the real-life issues affecting the OR. Whether you're tuning in for surgical service education or inspiration, we're glad you're here. And now, it's time to roll back and start the first case.
On this week's episode of First Case, we are wrapping up Season 18 with Rod McArdle, a clinical coordinator for Boston Children's Hospital at Waltham. And we are going to be uncovering everything that the clinical coordinators do every day to make sure that we have the equipment, supplies, and staff that we need so that our cases can run smoothly. Rod's going to help us understand the role of the clinical coordinator from the day-to-day to the problem solving and the troubleshooting and the things that come up that are unexpected that they are solving and helping us keep moving forward. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back with Rod McArdle.
From the studios of Healthcare HQ, you're listening to First Case.
Joining us now is Rod McArdle, clinical coordinator for Boston Children's Hospital at Waltham. And Rod, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate you having me on.
I'm so excited to get to talk to you. So many of you may already know, but if you don't, Rod and I have been serving together on the nominating committee for AORN for the almost 2 full years now. And we've gotten to know each other through AORN. And Rod always gave me a hard time. He's like, when am I going to get to be on the show? Like, you got to interview me. And I'm like, oh, I do. And then suddenly, as we're talking about this season and this entire season, trying to understand collaboration, well, Rod's a clinical coordinator. Hello, that makes perfect sense to have in this conversation. So we are going to be talking about the clinical coordinator role and how they really kind of are that glue that holds everything together and make sure that all of the things happen so that our cases can happen. So before we get into that conversation, though, Rod, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself to everybody?
So I'm Rod McArdle. Like Melanie said, I'm a clinical coordinator for the OR at Boston Children's, one of the satellites at Waltham. And I've been doing that job for almost 4 years. Been an OR nurse for almost 20 and been in healthcare and nursing for a little over 20 years. During that time, I had a family. I have 2 wonderful kids, one that just started high school, one that's going to be going into high school, and 2 dogs, a lovely wife that put up with all of my nursing antics, like being on call and never putting my phone or email away, which is, part of it all. Because clinical coordinator, if you're unfamiliar with that name, it's sort of like middle management. Like I answer up and I answer down, and I just make sure that everything runs smoothly. I do have a partner in my facility, and we run all of our services together, and it works really well.
Yeah. Middle management. That's really a good description for it. We're going to talk about that a little bit more too. But yeah, you answer to the people up top, you answer to the people below you, and you've got a lot of people that are pulling for your attention. But that actually, I wanted to dive into that a little bit more. Maybe at a high level, what does a clinical coordinator do in your day-to-day base? Stop. Let me try that again. Just at a very high level first, and then we'll get more detailed. But what would you say that a clinical coordinator does?
So my overarching role is to manage the people in my department, manage the people in other departments when other leaders aren't there, and to manage the OR schedule along with whatever surgeries need to be put on the schedule. Make sure they're appropriate for my facility, and then interact with a ton of other interdisciplinary teams or multidisciplinary teams.
So when stuff gets posted, are you looking at the schedule then and seeing that you might need a vendor for a particular case, or you might need a different department to make sure that they're available as well? Are you coordinating the outside departments as well when it comes to your schedule?
It's sort of all happens before the schedule really gets posted.
Uh-huh.
So as the schedule gets made, we have a team that works closely with our PACU. They're mostly PACU nurses and ICU nurses that manage whether or not the patients are appropriate for our site. And then because we don't have an ICU in my facility, but we can ship out to the main campus, which is only a few miles away. We do have a unit with beds for anything that we need to do as far as pain or bleeding or whatnot, but we don't have a ICU or a respiratory team. So we have criteria to bring patients to our facility based on like the anesthesia team's recommendations for caring for that type of a patient. So usually like ASA 1, ASA 2. We don't really have ASA 3 or more. We are a children's hospital too. So my facility does sports medicine, ortho trauma, urology, plastic surgery, and ENT, which we call ORL. So it's kind of neat. We have a nice mix of cases and healthy children.
Healthy children is good.
Yeah.
We like healthy children. Okay, so when are you, and so you mentioned it that PACU is really looking at that patients are suitable for your facility, but what else is going on behind the scenes to make sure that everything's there that you need for your cases?
Typically on Thursdays. Yesterday I did this.
Yeah.
Because today's Friday.
Yeah, it's nice.
Happy Friday, everybody. I take a look, or Sarah, my counterpart, we take a look at the schedule a week in advance. I mean, we have upcoming, like we have leads to what's going on weeks in advance for patients that are being booked. But what I did yesterday and what I do every week is I look ahead through the schedule for next week, starting, Monday through Friday, every single case, every doc, every room. I only have 6 rooms, so it's not a ton. We do 30 to maybe 65 cases a day. And make sure that each patient is booked properly. We have what we need, and if we don't, we work together. So I work with my SPD manager and my charge nurse team to make sure that we have everything, because I think one brain on a schedule isn't great. So what I do after I look ahead is I take notes on every single patient that I look at, which is all of them for the week. And I send out an email to my SPD manager, my partner, and my charge nurse team, along with my director, and make sure that everybody lays eyes on what I've picked up for the week. And we talk about whether we have enough of whatever instrumentation that we need, which we usually have enough of, because over the years we've put together a real nice inventory of surgical instruments and implants and whatnot, anything you need to do the cases. And then we look ahead to see if any conflicts are there, but most of the time our EMR takes care of conflicts because we've pre-programmed it to look for, we have 3 C-arms for our facility. If we needed 4, it would not let us book ahead. So
nice.
We set things up in advance to really make sure that we have what we need. And it really just works out with having all of us lay our eyes on it after one person runs through the entire schedule.
It's interesting that you bring up the EMR as actually being an extra set of eyes, so to speak, for your schedule, because you've pre-programmed the technology to be on the lookout for some of those things, because we are human. We do make mistakes. And so having the computer in the background picking up, oh, you don't have 4 C-arms, you can't book 4 C-arm cases. Are there any other parameters that you've set up too for it to be looking for besides C-arms?
Like any of the, Spider is one of them. So the Spider arm attachment for
shoulders.
Yeah, we have 2 of them. We have 2 Tremanos. We have we've put in all of our machines, and any of the items that we only have a few of. Like we have 2 liposuction machines. We have a handful of different items that we only have 1 or 2 of. And we, you don't typically need to run 4 or 5 rooms at the same time with those things. And we can just shift the schedule around. So if I need more than 2 of something or 3 of something, I can shift the schedule around and put this case at the end of the day and this case at the beginning of the day.
So tell me about that process then. If you do see that and you've got to rearrange the schedule, who are you talking to so that you can make that happen?
Well, I talk to my partner. Mm-hmm. And then I have a scheduler that works in my office that she's amazing. She just knows everything. And unfortunately, she's transitioning up to becoming a boss of 2 different facilities, and it is
so you're going to lose her.
I know, but she's training someone, so it's
okay, that'll be
the
good.
person she's training is absolutely wonderful. But you lose those years of experience. But she looks at the schedule with us and helps us move things around, and will manage the surgical schedulers. So like she'll reach out to each of the surgeons to say, hey, I have, like, we do tympanoplasties, and we have one big beautiful microscope. We have lots of like ear tube microscopes, but we have one big beautiful microscope, and they like an old backup one that no one wants to really use
nobody
anymore.
wants the old one. They all want the new shiny one. We know how this works.
Yeah, and so if we have multiple tympanoplasties by different surgeons, we try to put one at the beginning of the day and one at the end of the day. And like our day runs from 7 to 5, so there's plenty of room in the middle. So you could do like 2 in a row, and then have 2 in a row at the end of the day too. So it's it works. It works really well to know what you have at your facility and understand your limitations. And when you can work with those limitations, it really makes it limitless, right?
Well, yeah, it really does. I mean, you're looking ahead, so you're not caught off guard. You're not caught by surprise because you're forward thinking. But then also, like you said, the limitations, what equipment you do and don't have. And you also have the fallback of your EMR helping you with that. And then communicating and using the beautiful power of communication to let surgeons know, to let other teams know, hey, we need this, we need that, we've got to rearrange the schedule. Do you ever get pushback from surgeons when you're trying to rearrange cases?
Sometimes, like the ENT docs are, like I said, we call them ORL, like otorhinolaryngeo.
Right.
Because there's no bone doctors, they're orthopedic surgeons, so they want to be called they're right. I think it's appropriate. It makes sense. And I just want everybody to understand the lingo. And
tell me all those words again. ORL, what?
Otorhinolaryngel.
Otorhinolaryngel docs.
Ears.
ENT. Yeah.
Nose, throat, right?
We don't say bone doc, so we're not going to say ENT.
Right.
Nose and throat doc, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but ORL is a lot harder to say.
It is, but you get used to it. It's just kind of funny.
That is funny.
When I want to be a problem child for them, I always call them ENTs.
Yeah, that's a good way to make friends, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you, doctor. So, so we do get pushback. Like those guys like to do their tympanoplasties at the end of the day. And usually we try to work it out where one will do it at the beginning, one will do it at the end, if we have 2 at the same time, which isn't super often, but it does happen. And usually the senior doc gets what they want and the junior doc doesn't. Like the other day we had a C-arm go down. Like I told you, we had 3 C-arms. We needed 3 C-arms. So we rearranged the schedule to fit them as best as we could. And of course we had a cancellation and things moved up and changed. So we talked to the docs, and one of them was able to use a mini C-arm, or another one was able to say, I only need it for 1 shot at this particular time in the case. So we work together as a team to really manage like what limits us. And it works out if you're able to communicate well with those teams. And a heads up is usually good. Like, hey guys, this is what's going on. So we send it out to the guys working and their chiefs and say, hey, this is what we need because of, whatever is happening. Can you work with us? How can we work? And usually everybody is really reasonable, and they just want to, have their cases done and get the kids in and out.
Yeah. And they don't want to be surprised. Really,
right. That's the hard part, right? No one wants to walk in with surprise.
No one wants to be surprised. Okay, so we talked about managing the schedule, and that is a huge part of your role, and making sure that cases go off without a hitch and everything is there that you need. But you're also doing staffing, and you're managing the staff in the OR as well. Can you tell me more about what you're doing?
So we have 6 ORs, and we're 7 to 5 we all run late a little bit facility. Yeah. I have 25 FTEs, and that includes like clinical assistants, surgical technologists, and nurses. And nurses also scrub at our facility. So we're not a union facility where the nurses don't scrub, which is, I don't know, my favorite thing to do in the OR is to scrub. So I'm glad we can. And we usually keep about 6 rooms. We keep 18 staff. And sometimes we have up to 20 for projects or for the self-scheduling. Self-scheduling isn't perfect, so we have to really manage the schedule after self-scheduling. We have a committee that does that. There's 3 nurses that manage that schedule. We give them time to do that. So like that's part of our 25 FTEs where we can have other people working on projects like education and scheduling and just about anything else, IPC type stuff.
Are they going to keep your stuff stocked too? Are they going to check your out dates?
Right. So we do out dates, but we do have an inventory team that works with out dates. But we also, we have to all work together to do that. So we have 4 inventory specialists that work under our SPD manager, along with the whole SPD department.
Okay. So let's go back to this. You have 6 ORs. Mm-hmm. And you're staffing 18 FTEs for your 6 ORs. So are you doing 3 staff members? 3 staff members per room.
Pretty much. One of those staff is a charge nurse, and then we have support people, like out people who are running the core, preparing the next cases, getting whatever we need for whatever case, managing any emergencies.
Yeah. Being an extra set of hands when you just need extra people, and it's nice to be able to have help.
Yeah. Our turnover times are like just, as the kids would say, our fire. Like our average turnover time, I think, is like 20. It's either 24 or 28 minutes.
Wow,
which is pretty decent, and that's for the long. Like that's our average. So our ORL turnovers are like a couple of minutes.
Yeah, they're fast.
And and
your
putting like an ACL
going to be longer. Yeah.
Flipping to a shoulder or to a hip or something like that, we take a little longer. So our average times are really, really good. And that's because we have all hands on deck. Like even our environmental services team, they're waiting in the outer core for us. Nice. So they're waiting and watching, and they come right in. And it's like a whole team of people that help us turn over this room, along with anesthesia techs, and we're fully complemented, which is really nice.
Yeah, that is really nice. Actually, as a side note, one department that I wanted to talk to on this season was EVS, and to talk about their role in supporting surgical care. And I wasn't able to get anybody lined up, which is the only reason EVS was not included in this season. But huge shout out to them and the role that they play in making sure that we get turned over, that our rooms get clean, and we get set up. They're just a great group of people and very helpful.
Undervalued, I think.
Yes, very undervalued, underappreciated. And I really wish I could have given them a mic for this season. So just as a side note, because I feel bad that I couldn't get anybody in to talk to them. But I'm glad you brought them up because they do perform a very critical role in keeping our ORs running. Okay, so you're handling staffing, like the day-to-day, who goes in what rooms and who works with what doc. Are you managing other things as well with the people, or just doing like daily assignments, or what's it look like?
Daily assignments we leave up to our charge nurses.
Okay.
So our charge nurses will come in the morning or in the evening the night before and make the assignment for the next day. And that way everybody sort of, I don't know which is better, to know or not know. I've worked in a few different places that you like to know where you're going to be, and there's a few places that you just don't want to know where you're going to be because you just don't want to sleep on it. Our facilities, I think of it as a really nice place to work. So I don't think people really mind being in any spot in our facility. Of course, our plastics people like plastics and our sports people like sports, but I think they're very flexible. So we make the assignments ahead of time. If there's any conflicts, the charge nurses will reach out to me or my partner to help manage that. But typically they do that without any micromanagement, which is awesome.
Do your staff have set assigned rooms? Like every Monday, this person works with Dr. Smith, and every Tuesday, this person works with Dr. Jones? Or is it just a surprise every day? They can just go wherever.
So we know what our favorites are, right? Like our favorite services for each person. We try to keep them in their happy places. But we bounce rooms at the end of the day to
Right,
try
yeah.
to keep everything on time. My team, for the most part, knows how to do everything, but they prefer to do what they prefer to do.
Exactly.
So we do our best to keep everybody as happy as they want to be. Sometimes leave room for people who are uncomfortable in spots to maybe go team up with someone and be that extra person in that room to help learn how to do things. Because you never know what you're going to get at the end of the day.
No. That's actually a really good thing about having extra people on hand, or it might look like extra people on the schedule. And I think somebody from the outside, a bean counter from the outside who doesn't really understand how the OR works, all they see is all these extra people on paper, and they don't understand all of the things that the person might be doing.
Those people aren't really extra. So they're there for call outs. They're there for any sort of leave of absence. They're there for lunches and breaks, and they're there to help make the day go a little smoother. And without them, you would be doing less cases, and you would have very unhappy, uneducated people because you wouldn't have the education in place because no one would be able to do the education.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have your schedule done. It would be, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that doesn't get done if you don't have more hands to do it. And being able to say, hey, you're not very strong in, or I can say, I'm not very strong in robotics, and I would like to be assigned as the other person in these rooms today so I can learn more, so I can see more. Because then now I have been able to train, I've been able to learn, and then I can support those cases. Because we all know you might start the day in ortho, but you're going to end the day wherever the case is that needs to be done, because we're all just here to get the cases done and get everybody home. So like you're going to end up wherever, and you have to be competent in any of the type of service lines that you offer in your facility. So being able to have the luxury of going to learn and to be able to learn some more, see some more, do it. I can't tell you how many times I fought that mentality. At one of the facilities I worked with, we had 10 ORs, and I was given 2 people per OR, and that was it. No extras. We got 1 scrub, 1 tech, 1 nurse, 1 scrub, and that was it. There were no floaters. There was no extra. And if there were floaters, if for some reason we had a room down, I was told to send people home. And so to not have the extra people, you're always like, what if somebody calls in? What if somebody's sick? What are we going to do? You cannot run an OR long term.
Right.
That skeleton crude.
Reframe that extra. I don't think it's extra. I think it's if you don't have the appropriate amount of people. I think AORN came out with guidelines a bunch of years back that gave you 1.5 people per OR.
Yeah.
So it's not really
It's not really extra. I say extra because, they were saying that this is who you needed in each room. So the third person they would say was additional. But extra is really not the right word to use. It's the people that we need so that we can actually function within our operating room for sure. I didn't realize AORN had that. I need to go back.
Yeah, there's a whole article a bunch of years ago. I don't know if it made it to guidelines or not, but I can find it for you.
Yeah, look at that, because that's very helpful to have that extra. I keep saying extra, and they're not really extra, but just to have enough people to really do the job.
Just in case any of my bean counters are listening, they're not extra; they're necessary.
Yeah, and they are necessary people for sure. All right, so let's talk about maybe some more examples of just times where things, like there was a mistake, maybe a miscommunication, maybe something got missed in the schedule and it caused a problem or delay. And then how do you manage that?
We had an excellent flip this like 2 days ago. We have like different specialties, like upper extremity, lower extremity stuff, different people working at the same time, and certain people pick up different days depending on like if one service is on vacation or they have a conference or whatever happens. And we had 2 lower extremity surgeons at the same time, and one booked a specific implant kit and the other did not. They booked something close to, but not quite what they wanted. I got a call from my charge nurse, a little frantic, and she was like, I'm not sure what to do, but I need you to come down here. I'm going to call our inventory our SPD manager also. And me and our SPD manager, Jeff, who's awesome. We went down, we looked at the schedule, and we're like, all right, these patients aren't here yet. This is something that was happening in the moment and going to happen, right? So one was closing, one had just started, and then the one that was closing had a next case that needed that same implant kit. We only had one. Yeah, I know. Scary, right?
Yeah.
So we thought a little bit outside of the box, and we know it was a screw set. We had a handful of other instrument sets because we separate them due to weight, because we need to make sure that we're under the 25-pound limit of our kits. So we separate the screws and the instruments. It was like a fully threaded, cannulated compression screw that we needed. And I asked the surgeon, I'm like, hey, is this something that you need, or can you use like a partially threaded? What are we looking at? And he's like, well, if I'm not going to change the care for my patient due to this, I want a fully threaded 6'5", blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right, do you know what range of size you need?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have extra inventory, right? Like, so you have replacement screws for the sets, or at least we do. It's like, it's really hard to tell, and I really don't want to measure and then try to use something that I said that would fit and not have it fit. I'm like, okay, let me go see what we have. And we took a separate screw caddy, me and the inventory, I keep calling it inventory, but he's our inventory manager and our SPD manager, so he runs both sections. And we went down with our rep from that company, and we went and unpackaged all of our screws, put them in a caddy that didn't quite fit but had all the right sizing. It was just a slightly bigger caddy. Had enough to fill, so we had 3 of each screw, which was kind of funny because we didn't think we had that many replacements, and filled up the caddy, processed it, and by the time the patient arrived, went through pre-op and went in, we maybe delayed them about 5 minutes.
Wow.
Because we found the problem, we thought about different solutions, and we found one that really worked. And we had it completely sterilized with the biological before the patient really got prepped and draped. So It was pretty perfect.
Yeah.
Just in case we did turn over the other set, not flash, but like actually wash, sterilize, and biological the other set. But we didn't need it, and it really worked out because of the teamwork and communication from the charge nurse and in between my departments, and having the rep there as well was really nice.
Absolutely.
That's
a really good example. Yeah, that's a really good.
This was like last week too. So when you asked it, I'm like, ooh, I got it.
I got this one.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you are handling a lot. You're juggling staffing, having the people that you need to support your cases, and juggling also the equipment and stuff side of cases. And I feel your pain because this is the same role that I did. We were called team leaders, not clinical coordinators, but we did the same thing. And so we were just always paying attention to all of the things that were up in the air to make sure that everything went off without a hitch come that particular day of surgery. But I'm curious to hear your perspective. As we've talked, this is the last episode of the season, and we are bringing everything kind of together to think about collaboration and how we are working together to make surgery happen. So I'm curious, as a clinical coordinator and just you personally, what does collaboration mean, and what does that look like to you?
Well, I mean, I think collaboration looks like what we just discussed, really.
Yeah,
I mean, there were
absolutely.
3 different groups of people really working together to solve a problem. And we do that with every aspect of the operating room. Like, if there's a patient that is being tough in pre-op, needs a little extra attention, we come out, we have a discussion, we talk to the patient, try to figure it out with, each of the different providers and nursing leadership to really manage that situation. We do that in the OR, like we just talked about. Even in PACU, if there's a code in PACU, we work together with our NPs and our PACU staff and our hospitalists who come in, they help manage those patients. I think true collaboration really just comes from great communication and having an open mind and being able to be communicated to, which isn't always easy, right?
No, it's not.
It's hard sometimes to hear that you need to do something that you're not doing. But if you can hear that, it's really helpful. And I think that's where that.
I think so. Yeah, no, that's excellent insight and good thoughts on that. So,
I mean, I think that whole job is it's just about communication and knowing who your resources are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, Rod, you have given us incredible insight into the clinical coordinator role and really understanding that communication really, I think, is a good foundation for the collaboration that we see. Knowing who our resources are, all of these things are just the ways that we all work together to make surgery happen. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Melanie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you. That was Rod McCardle, clinical coordinator for Boston Children's Hospital at Waltham. And what a great way to wrap up the season, to look within our own department at what our clinical coordinators are doing to keep things running smoothly, from dealing with equipment conflicts and making sure we have coordination with sterile processing and with the other departments, to also managing our staffing and making sure that it's not just the bare minimum number of people in the room, but enough people to support the workload, to support the day, to support cases. I think it was a very helpful part of the conversation to differentiate between the word extra when we're talking about staff and really looking and instead saying that we have enough staff, because it's not just the bare minimum that's going to get us through the day. It's all of the people that are supporting the cases and making sure that we have lunch breaks and bathroom breaks and that we can cover call-ins and support if there's a code or an emergency. And so that was a very helpful part of this conversation amongst everything else that we talked about. But our clinical coordinators are doing an awful lot to make sure that everything runs smoothly each and every day. And I think it is helpful to see their role from their point of view so that we know what else is happening when we're in a room and we don't really know what they may be doing. It's helpful to hear about it. So that is going to do it not only for this interview, but also for this season. Thank you so much for joining us. We talked to so many different groups, different departments within the season, and there are plenty that we missed. I know I already brought up EVS, but we also didn't get to talk to pre-op or PACU, other departments as well that are interacting with us on a regular basis. And so perhaps we need to continue this conversation within another season. 8 episodes is just too short to get to everybody. But thank you for coming along with us and joining us for this season. On behalf of Chris, myself, and our whole team, thanks for listening to this episode of First Case.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of First Case. As a reminder, you can help support us by subscribing to First Case on your favorite podcast app or by downloading the smartphone app on iPhone or Android. Simply search for First Case in the App Store or Google Play. The best thing about downloading the smartphone app is that you can access bonus content for certain episodes and view episodes in certain categories, like articles on the go and vendor spotlights. Are you following us on LinkedIn or Facebook yet? If you are and you love an episode or post, then let your social network know about it. Like, comment, or share our posts along with your thoughts and keep the conversation going. If you have any topics or guests that you would like to recommend for a future episode, just send us an email to info@firstcasemedia.com. We look forward to hearing from you.